Hello and welcome back to the KC Dota channel. Just in the nick of time, I'm trying to get this tier list video up for the main event of Riyadh Masters. Now, the play-in has concluded. I just want to put a couple of notes through for the teams that were eliminated. Execration, VP, Entity, and Beast Coast. I feel like Execration, unfortunately, we expected y'all to go home and you did. That's just the way it goes. VP, you thought you dodged that, Eastern EU competition, but they still had to play 9 pandas in the decider. They got whacked out and went home. Feels bad, man. They did push it to 3 games, but they didn't look that impressive throughout the groups, the planes, but it wasn't too bad either. Kind of, expected where we wanted them to. Entity, you see the excuses come out from the Western EU fanboys being like, oh, they had to play against tough inter-regional competition OG, who look lackluster in their own right. I don't know why these Western EU teams always get an excuse and stuff. I feel like if a Chinese team had to go out in a decider, let's say like Aster or IG or even Extreme, it would be like, oh, China's so weak, wada bullshit. But Entity, they went out to a team that I don't think looked that great in the plains either. Unfortunate for them though. I would have liked to see them do what I thought they were one of the more promising teams in the plane. And Beast Coast, lastly, my dear friends, why, how, when, and where? What did we do to, as Beast Coast fans, what did we do to deserve this? Oh man, very sad that they went out. I expected them, to pull a classic Beast Coast and like choke the groups a bit and maybe, not make a top 2 spot, make it look super difficult in the decider, but I never expected them to just like straight up go home. They did lose to TSM though, which I think will actually look pretty decent in the playing section, so shout out TSM, but man, oh man, this is so disappointing for Beast Coast. I think they really a team that I thought could have, maybe at least win 1-2 rounds in playoffs at least, because that's the potential I think the team has. And I think, monetarily wise, it's a $15 million tournament. They would have really been rewarded for it. So it's a very disappointing loss for them. I hope they can regain their composure and, work towards something for TI, because I guess, that's still the big event of the year. But sad for them. And yeah, let's talk about the teams left here. So first team we can talk about, let's see who we go with. Let's talk about Aster, because I feel like they are the definition of, we got A tier and they are big A. And I feel like, what I said in the play-in video was dead on accurate about them. Is that they are a really good team. They're super consistent throughout their performances in DPC, at Dream League 20, at Bali Major. They beat who they're supposed to beat, and I think there's some teams, the better teams they play against, they ended up losing, but I feel like those games they can win as well. So hopefully they can get over that in this group stage, because again, I feel like at Bali in the upper bracket, they had a chance to win that game. They could have closed, they could have carried on their run, but they didn't close. We called out XXS in the last video saying he's been lacking and such. But hopefully, this time they can really bring forward. They finished top of their group. The match against Liquid, I don't want to downplay it, but both teams are already qualified. I don't think there's too much to read. Even if Aster got 2-0, it is what it is. I think they still a tier team in my mind, and I'm super happy with them and what they're doing right now. Let's talk about Talon next. So a lot of people maybe would doubt why I put them up here in A tier as well, because their performance in DPC 2 or 3 was, shocking. I think they finished 4th in the CDPC. For a team as good as Talon, that's an absolute embarrassment. But they did redeem themselves. In Dream League Season 20, they really did well, getting a top 4 placement. They look super good too as well. I think they didn't get to go to Bali, so you could say some of that experience, they could be fall behind of the teams that did attend. But I think Dream League Season 20 was, followed similar patterns to Bali, and the competition was as good, just as good. So I don't think them missing Bali should be too much of an issue, as well as the new patch as well. We're playing on 7.33E, so it's fair game. I think, they could still disappoint, but I really think player for player, this team is really good. Their 2 core players are freaking Makoto and 23 Savage, some of the most skilled players in the world. And I want to see these brothers succeed. I think they can really do damage, because I think what makes Talon special is that they play Southeast Asian type of Dota, right? But they can play slow, they can dominate their lanes, they can farm a lot. but they also understand the Western game, and they know how to play faster. They are mastered SEA Dota and understand the way the international teams play as well. And I think they're really just exceptional. I think they could be exceptional. So I'm rating them highly for this event, and hopefully they can live up to that. Next team we can talk about is Nine Pandas. They didn't finish top 2 in their groups, which I think is quite disappointing for me. I think they should have. And watching the games, there's so many games this team throws, right? If there was a tier list for throwing games, with like losing games from a 10K net worth lead, they'd be SS tier, and there's nobody that comes close to them. It is kind of part of the course with the team, though. It's part of the way they play. As a fan, it could maybe sound as copium, but this is what Kiyotaka and Ramses really do specifically. Like, they'll be like 16 and 8, that'll be a score. They get so many kills, they'll die a lot. Both these players can be like 10 and 0, but they'll dive a little too hard and it can cost them. It comes with the play style, I guess, right? They play super aggressive. They always push teams, make them uncomfortable and stuff. And sometimes that's going to bite you in the ass. So I don't think they're going to be an A-tier team for me on this list, even though I think they're good, player for player. At their best, they could beat any of the A-tier teams. It's just there's some games where it just doesn't work out, and they can fall inconsistent. They should make the playoffs though, or even if they make lower brackets, should make a bit of a run. But yeah, inconsistency, man. What can you say about it? OG, I don't want to talk about them yet. We'll leave those teams for last. Let's carry on with the A-tier teams. Team Liquid, A-tier as well. They finished second in the group. They come off a second place victory at Bali. Second place loss at Bali. I think they're a super solid team. All the same things I said about in the play-in, that they have these great ideas, they can execute at a really high level, they have super high skilled players and a mix of experience as well. And they are a quality team all around. They can dominate games in the early game. They can make crazy comebacks in the late game. They're all around quality team. They're a really, really, really good team. But I don't rate them. They're not S tier for me yet, and I don't think they're a great team because nothing really stands out. They're really good at certain things at certain times, but it's not a consistent level of performance from Liquid, even though the results are consistent, right? Their results have been so consistent. They've made the most grand finals this year outside of Gaming Gladiators. But the actual way they play, to me, just doesn't look that deliberate. I don't know if that's the right word. It's just not that consistent, It's not like a team like Gaming Gladiators where every game you're going to get a certain level of performance. I mean, that's obviously a very high bar to live up to, and I don't think they've reached their final form yet. They could put it together and maybe win this whole event. That's possible, right? But they could also have a lackluster performance here. Maybe do mediocre in groups, go out early in the playoffs, and I wouldn't really be that surprised, honestly, as good as they are. Next team I want to talk about is, let's go to Quest. I know I'm going through all the A-tier teams here, but Quest is a team I would like to have spoke a lot of shit about. Like, I was going to talk mad trash if these guys went out early. Even though I support Quest and I like them, I think I was a bit of a bigger Amar fanboy than I was a Quest fanboy. And I thought, they couldn't settle Amar's contract. He's out of the team now. They're going to be so trash. They're not even going to make it out of deciders or whatever. And they look like, to me, as the best team in the play-ins. Like, obviously, Asta's record was better, but I think Group B was much stronger than Group A. And the games they lost was to Extreme, which is also kind of interesting. But yeah, they were really good. And I think funny enough, their stand-in Malik had a similar game to Amar where he was playing Doom and he was just way more farm than everybody. He could just carry the game. So this team is good. They're really good. Let's see what they do. Shout out Quest. Okay, next teams. Let's go to LGD. This is going to be a controversial opinion, but I'm going to have them in B tier. Just to contrast them with Asta, because I think maybe some would think that it's crazy putting LGD B tier and Asta A tier. And if the results pan out that way, not that I'm hoping bad for Asta, but if LGD overperform, I'm going to be really happy, because if anybody knows me, they know I'm a PSG LGD fanboy. But I feel like they not on the say, like if I contrast them with Asta, for example, Asta beats who they're supposed to beat consistently. LGD can at times look like a really, really great world-beating team, but they can also have some games where, cracks show. They have exceptional player in the mid lane, nothing to say, is straight up phenomenal. News really coming to his own in the off lane. But there's just some games where they can kind of fall short. I think they're quite similar to Nine Pandas where, they have the ceiling of, on their day we're going to beat a really good team, but there's sometimes that they can underperform as well. So I'm not going to put them in the A tier category. Again, people going to be upset, Aster there, Talon there, but not PSG, LGD, and that's fine. Like, it's okay. If I'm wrong, I want to be wrong on this. But I think why I also have them at B tier is also a mentality thing where at the crunch time of the season, right, they've been having performances where they've kind of underwhelmed. They haven't really hit the level of success that they wanted to hit. And I think, being the best team in China, being PSG, LGD, there's a lot of expectations and stuff. So maybe they're feeling a bit deflated and stuff at this point of the season as well. Maybe not, it's just speculation. But those would be the reasons I sort of pin to if they kind of fall short in this event. But hey, I want to be wrong on that. Shopify Rebellion. Okay, again, I forgot to explain this at the start of the video. All the black logos are just in D because they're black. I didn't find the right color logos. My bad. Shopify Rebellion. This is spicy. We'll keep this for the end. Let's talk about EG. EG is a team that I rated quite highly going into Bali. I thought they were looking pretty strong in a lot of key and important games that I saw. They didn't do, I can't remember the exact placing in Berlin, but they really showed signs of brilliance at times. And they just been, since last year, last year at TI, they had a phenomenal performance, a lot of these players and things. And they've been a good team, but I feel like I'm very worried for them at this event because although Beast Coast, for example, went out now in the play-ins, right? If you watch Beast Coast games, every game they play looks like the hardest game of Dota you've seen in your goddamn life. Like it's a wrestle in the mud, in a storm with gale force winds blowing through. That's how difficult all Beast Coast games look. So they're out, yes, but every game looks tough. They're going to grit and grind every time they play. So maybe, their mentality has to be there if they're so good in the late game, and maybe they can recover nicely at TI. But for EG, I worry because they are not a team like that. They are a super aggressive, highly dominant team. They smash 3 lanes, they play fast, and they fuck shit up, That's EG at their best. And they went I think 0-7 over the first 2 days at Bali Major in the group stage. They were the last place team in the event. And it's just, I think a team who plays so aggressive, confidence is key, and they might not be feeling the most confident right now. But even at Bali, just to emphasize my point, there was a game where they play against Gaming Gladiators. Gaming Gladiators get their classic IO Lesh combo, and EG just steamrolled them. They beat them in 20 minutes. Chris Luck went 12-0 on his last pick, Death Prophet. So, the signs of life are still there, but whether they have it mentally together to achieve what they're supposed to achieve, that's to be decided. Maybe they'll stay in the event, but I wouldn't be surprised to see them just go home straight away. So I'm going to leave them here. I'm not going to really decide who's going home just yet. Let me fill out the list first, and then we can get to it. Team Spirit is a team we'll put here in B tier as well. Very similar to Nine Pandas and LGD, but much more extreme, where I think they draft all over the place. They pick a lot of different heroes and stuff. It can be exciting for a viewer. Hey, we're seeing new heroes, we're seeing new hero combinations, that sort of thing. But, the execution isn't always there to match it. I feel like I was working a game during the group stage at Bali where they picked this Visage hero. And I just came off watching a series of Liquid play the Visage and then watching Team Spirit play the Visage. It was night and day difference of how they secured it in the lane, how they executed in the game and stuff. And they do a lot of different things, but execution is just not there. I feel like they're a bit too all over the place. And I don't know, Team Spirit just not elite right now for me. They're not even at the A tier to get to the chance to be elite. Hopefully they can put it together this tournament. Again, there are times where this team can beat a lot of the teams in the world, but right now they at the bottom of the B tier if you're ranking Nine Pandas, PSG, and then Team Spirit. We'll even move PSG up again because I think they should be a bit more consistent than Nine Pandas, right? Next team, Extreme Gaming. They shocked a lot of people in the group. I had them last place in the play-in video, and that video was funny because I got Group A bang on right. Every single prediction worked out exactly the way I said, and Group B just went full on haywire. But I'm super happy they did that. They looked quite good. They're the only team to have beaten Quest in the group as well with a clean 2-0. Again, pressure's off Paparazzi now. He's retiring. Maybe he won't even retire now. You know how these Dota players are, the Chinese retirement. Zenq should be integrating the team nicely. I feel like they have a lot of only positives to take forward into the group stage because there's no pressure on them. Because again, Paparazzi said he's retiring. Zenq just came to the team. And they've come through, they've made a bang in the plane, and I think they're going to do well in the group stage as well. There's no pressure for them to perform, but they are performing. So I think they can catch a lot of teams off guard, and I'd be super happy to see them take some wins off the big team. I believe their first match will be a rematch against Quest as well. So that'll be a super interesting one to test each team's mettle. And I think for Quest, it's also important because they should be a team fighting for the upper bracket slot. I mean, that's the kind of quality they're showing. Again, I'm just sticking with the A-tier teams here. Tundra, I think, is one of the weaker teams in the A-tier. I think some people will get upset if I say that because, Tundra, they did so well at Bali. So many EU teams did great at Bali, but I feel like their upper bracket match, they got 2-0'd by BetBoom. And yeah, they made it far, but they weren't even meant to be there in the first place. Like Azure Ray, for example, part of their reasoning they gave that they, pushed for Pure to get, disqualified and they can play against BetBoom without it. They were prepping for Tundra. They were spending the whole night prepping for Tundra. Now they get a new opponent, whatever. Technically, it's really unfair, situation for a team in the lower bracket. So, yeah, Tundra, they love these late game situations. They play super weird. Nine has a weird hero pool for mid. Skitter has such a weird hero pool for carry, but he still carries all the games. He's a beast. Aoi is the genius Dota brain. I mean, this thing is like the typical, even in the context of Dota, this is like a nerd team that does interesting things, they innovate and such. But I don't think they're looking at tip-top shape. But again, Bali, they also played with a stand-in. Saksa got sick or something during the event and Aoi had to stand in. So maybe, again, at full force, this team could look a bit better and such. I'm not that high on them, but I also think that, you can't knock their quality. They could be great at this event. I'm not going to put them in B tier. They're on the door knocking, but I don't think they're one of the best teams in A tier, in my opinion, either. OG. So, wait, these 5 teams are the ones I'm going to get to last, right? Team Secret, TSM, Shopify, Rebellion, EG, and OG. We will get to them when we get to them, right? BetBoom goes here. If they don't have any pauses, right? If they do have any pure pauses, Pure's freaking keyboard and mouse is unplugged. If they don't let him go in any interviews and such, player for player, BetBoom, in my opinion, is the best team. Just on raw talent and stuff alone, they are really good team. I think they play super well. They dominate. They have all the makings of an elite Dota team, but they're their own worst enemies. Obviously, the Pure incident, Toronto, Tokyo are still taking a lower bracket saying, why you guys don't want to play us at full strength with that message to the Azure Ray guys who probably couldn't even read that because I don't know if any of them even speak English. They can have that classic EEU tilt in them as well, which obviously is very clear when you have so many core players in the team. Obviously, people are going to tilt because that's what core players do. But, no drama. Let them play Dota. Let their heads be straight. I think this team is really good. I think from the A-tier teams, they're the best team in my opinion. I think anything short in the normal circumstances, I have to put that caveat there because, who knows what's going to happen with this team. They should be a grand final team. If they're anything less than a grand final team, I think it would be a disappointment. Maybe third place finish is okay still, but anything less than that is really going to be cause for concern going into TI for them. The only team that's going to make S tier for me is Gaming Gladiators. I think maybe these other teams in different years could have maybe made arguments to be S tier and stuff. But when you have a team like Gaming Gladiators who set the standard for the year, no team comes close. In terms of consistency from how they lane, from how they draft, from the results they get, everything, this team is phenomenal. They've had one of the greatest years in Dota 2 history already, winning 5 tier 1 tournaments back to back. And the way they're talking and the way they're playing, right? Forget even the way they play, which is rock solid. Their mentality, the way they talk in interviews and such, I think they really have the potential to do the 7 in a row. I'm not trying to jinx them or anything, but I don't see why not, honestly. But now's the time of the season where the most pressure is on. A $15 million tournament here at Riyadh, and then obviously TI. That's where teams get made or broken. And yeah, that's my take for GG. God gamers, straight up. Now for the difficult part. So there's nobody in C tier, right? One of these teams will have to come here to C tier, right? But 4 teams are going home. Now, which of these 4 teams are going home? Spoiler alert, I do think it's one of these 4 of these 5 teams that I have here. OG, yeah, they qualified to main event, but they just made it through in a decider. Not very convincing. I was kind of disappointed in the way they performed. They had a lot of good performances, right? But also, like Nine Pandas, they threw a lot of games with goal leads and stuff. And I'm kind of disappointed that they were playing like that because, Seb was back. You think they have that sort of leadership and experience to keep the troops in order and get to the finish line. But it is also OG. It would be a classic OG storyline thing. Oh, we grind up from the lower bracket. We came through, bullied OG and all that crap. But I don't know. From these teams, I don't know if they're going to be the teams that survive. EG, I think their confidence is going to be shot from Bali. So I think they could very well go home. Shopify Rebellion, maybe we'll put them in C tier from here. I think Secret, with Puppy, they could also make a run. TSM did look decent in play-in. But the problem is with these 5 teams, right, is that these teams, in my opinion, are really good, right? You could say Shopify Rebellion is like on the same tier with like these teams here. Spirit can be inconsistent at times and whatever. But like Shopify Rebellion has really been underperforming. They didn't even make it through the groups in Dream League. They barely made it through the groups in Bali. They got beaten by Beast Coast in the first round of lower bracket. They don't really seem concerned. I mean, I think these guys are living the dream. 5 friends, getting to play in a region that they dominate. They get really good salaries. They seem content with where they are, which is quite concerning. You could also have people making the arguments that they're saving themselves for the most important time of the season and stuff. But when you look historically at this team, I don't think they're really one of those, crunch time teams that rise to the occasion and perform and dominate. I think it's actually the opposite. They really choke at a lot of these big events and stuff. If you're looking at the real history of like EG post TI5 or TI6 rather, because that's when, RTZ came back. I think after TI6. But I think they should still on raw skill alone make it through, as opposed to the rest of these teams. I do think like a team like Secret probably has a higher ceiling. Maybe they can grow in groups against the top competition and stuff and go through. So maybe I can keep it spicy and predict Secret to go through instead of Shopify Rebellion. But I really, even as one of their biggest doubters in Shopify Rebellion in terms of ceiling, I don't think their floor is that low either. I think they will make it through. EG confidence is low. OG don't look that impressive. NA low for TSM and Secret. It's a new team, it's a new roster, there's a lot of adjustments. I do really feel bad for putting a Puppy team at D tier, right? And to think Puppy will go home in the groups is also insane because, again, they didn't even look that bad in the DPC. They took a lot of games off a lot of top teams. A lot of their losses was 2-1 defeats to teams such as Gaming Gladiators and stuff as well. So maybe I fucked up here with Team Secret at the bottom. I think that's the only one I really doubt. But yeah, that's my tier list. Let's see how it pans out in the event, but this is how I have it set up. Hope you guys enjoyed this video and enjoy the rest of Riyadh. It's last minute, but I hope you guys still tune in and enjoy. Bye-bye.